In Attack on Titan, Kenny's last word didn't just push Levi to let Armin inherit the Titan power. They also pointed to a simple truth. Everyone needs something to live for. Or in Kenny's words, everyone has to be drunk on something to keep pushing on. And Levi's choice wasn't simply pick one of the two. He actually saved both Armin and Erwin. Ahoy hoy, this is Black Goat. When Levi took down the Beast Titan, he urgently looked for survivors. To be honest, he just needs someone, anyone, to feed to Zeke. He didn't care who it was. But after the Car Titan rescued Zeke, Levi had no choice but to return inside the walls to meet his comrades. Armin was doing fine as a soldier, sure. But at that moment, to Levi, Armin was just a smart rookie, nothing more. Saving Armin wasn't ever his plan, not even close. The only person he truly cared about was Commander Erwin. Not injecting Erwin wasn't giving up on him. It was Levi's way of saving him, freeing him from this hell. And because Armin was dying right next to him, Levi chose Armin as the second and only option to inherit the Titan power. Erwin had given everything for humanity, or more precisely, for the audience on Paradise Island. He endured humiliation, he fought the higher-ups and even the royal government. He lost his right arm, he sacrificed countless comrades, and he carried the name of Devil on his back. But deep down, his true goal wasn't world peace, it wasn't saving his people. It came from one of the humanity's oldest desires, the hunger for knowledge. He wanted to know if humans existed beyond the walls. He wanted the truth of human history. To chase that truth, he climbed through the ranks, led the Survey Corps, used his brilliant strategic instinct, and moved closer and closer to the answer. But with each step, the weight on his shoulders grew heavier, filled with responsibility and the lives lost because of his decisions. By the middle of the story, the truth was right there, only a few steps away in that basement. But Erwin also knew that the fallen comrades were watching him. He couldn't betray those who had given their hearts to follow his dream. So in the end, he made his decision. He accepted Levi's plea. Give up your dream and go to die. Erwin's choice was tied to Levi. You could even say Levi's promise was the reason Erwin carried his regrets and his entire squad toward the end of his life. When Flock carried the dying Erwin to Levi, Levi was ready to save him and sacrifice Armin. But at the final moment, he remembered Kenny's words, and that changed everything. Everyone chases something. Power, status, money, pleasure, faith, loyalty, family. And what Kenny chased was overwhelming violence. The ironic thing is, the Alchemist blood made him stronger than any human, but it also cut him off from Titan power, the ultimate power he wanted most. When he realized he would never reach that goal, he had to let it go. In his final moments, Kenny remembered Uri. He thought he finally understood something about that powerful man who once knelt before him. We don't know exactly what was on Kenny's mind. Was it mercy from the strongest man? Guilt toward the Alchemans on behalf of the royal family? A recruitment attempt? No one knows. Or maybe Kenny saw what happened to Rod. Even with Titan power stronger than Uri's, Rod became nothing more than a mindless giant monster. That showed Kenny that Uri's true strength wasn't fear or dominance, but his ability to understand hatred, take responsibility, and let others live. Kenny knew he could never reach that level, neither physically nor spiritually. And maybe that's why, with his last breath, he chose to hand the Titan serum to the only family he had left in the world. What about Erwin? What made him willing to suffer so much in his life? Was it power? Proving his father's right? Revenge? Or survival? None of those truly defined him. Erwin wasn't afraid of death. He believed he should have died long ago with the comrades he kept sending into battle. The only thing that kept him moving was a dream he'd held since childhood. To know if humanity existed beyond the walls and to uncover the truth of human history. And when he realized he couldn't survive the next charge, when he understood he would never reach that truth, he let go of the dream he had chased his whole life. Instead, he fulfilled his duty as a commander and led his soldiers on the one last charge, trading their lives for humanity's final chance. So what if Levi really chosen Erwin over Armin? Erwin would have awakened, walked down into that basement, opened that door, read Grisha's diary, and finally learned the truth. His life's dream granted. But then what? After confirming humanity outside the walls, after fulfilling the purpose that shaped his entire existence, what would keep him going? Maybe he'd set a new goal, like finding a way for parody to coexist with the outside world, using the minimal Titan power as deterrence. But it is just as possible he'd lose all direction, crushed by the truth he had chased for so long. No one knows how that what-if would have turned out, but here's what we do know. Erwin spent years turning himself into a devil shaped by this merciless world. And once his dream was fulfilled, all that would remain was the unbearable weight of leadership. The deaths he ordered, the sins he carried, every step forward would only drag him deeper into that role. And if Erwin ever lost his drive, if he ever hesitated, the Survey Corps would end up being led by a man with no will left to fight. That could be even worse than losing him entirely. Armin, on the other hand, wasn't ready yet, but his potential was undeniable. His dream wasn't a basement, it was the ocean. Vast, open, and full of possibilities. A dream big enough to shape the future. Levi's decision wasn't about saving Armin. It was about not dragging Erwin back into this living hell and not risking the morale of the entire Survey Corps for a gamble he couldn't justify. Letting Erwin rest in peace and let Armin inherit the Titan power was the choice that protected Erwin, Armin, and the entire Survey Corps. For Levi, it was the most rational and reasonable decision he could make. If someone can't fulfill their desire or reach their dream, does that make their life meaningless? Maybe our personal dreams, our happiness, even our lives don't carry meaning only for ourselves. Every life ends eventually, but the meaning of our existence gets passed on the people who survive us. That's the only way anyone can fight against this cruel world. It is not the meaning of an individual life. It is the meaning of humanity. Some people say, and even Erwin admitted, that his last speech to the rookies was just a lie meant to push them toward death. But no matter what he said, he lived by it first. He led the charge himself, took the first hit, and created the tiny opening Levi needed to defeat the Beast Titan. Otherwise, even if Armin's team defeated the Colossal Titan, they would have been wiped out right after. In the end, both sides bought each other enough time to win that brutal victory together. Erwin didn't live to see what came next, but just like he said, the fallen soldiers watched silently from behind, seeing what becomes of the future purchased with their hearts.
みんな何かの奴隷だった。
Many fans turned this line into deep philosophy and made Kenny look like a tragic thinker. But in truth, Kenny was just a man consumed by his obsession with violence. His desire never grew beyond himself. In his world, nothing mattered. No beliefs, no friends, no love, no one. Until the very last moment of his life, when he finally remembered he still had family, even there is only one person left. The squad he led, the Anti-Personnel Control Squad, was built on the idea that humanity had to fight itself inside the walls. Their entire existence was a symbol of decay and internal conflict. And ironically, Kenny's only true contribution to his people was raising Levi, the strongest soldier who would one day defend humanity against the Titans. Erwin, on the other hand, also had desires, an obsession even, and his choices cost many soldiers their lives. But while chasing his dream, he also created miracles for others. Those who followed him, even to their deaths, trusted his judgment, his cold but unshakable clarity. His dream wasn't only for himself. It pushed the Survey Corps and the entire Paradis Island beyond the walls and beyond the royal government's lies. But if we step outside the Eldian perspective, the consequences look very different. Erwin strengthened the Survey Corps. That strength helped set the stage for breaking the vow of renouncing war, which eventually allowed Erwin to unleash the rumbling, killing 80% of humanity. So when comparing Kenny and Erwin, two men driven by completely different desires, which one ultimately caused greater destruction in the end? The truth is, this same pattern exists in our real world. Everything we live with today, the good and the bad, comes from the choices of people who lived long before us. And that is the meaning every one of us, past and present, you and me, leaves behind. If you've got thoughts or correction after watching, please feel free to drop them in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share it with your friends. It really helps me keep going. I'm Black Goat. See you in the next one.